All right, well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you. I did prepare some slides, but I've decided not to use slides to convey the importance of the message. What I'm going to be talking about today is something that's vital to you as you implement your technology solutions. We've heard it many, many times. You need to get those employees engaged. So what I'm going to be talking about is how you can unleash the potential of the employees in your organization or in your client organizations. And I wanted to start with a story. And you know, all stories, you know how they begin?
Once upon a time.
Before that, are you sitting comfortably? Is everybody comfortable? Hands up if you're feeling comfortable. Everybody feeling comfortable? Yeah. All right, that's the wrong story. Businesses never end with happily ever after, right? Comfortable is a word I would choose to describe an old sofa. Sadly, many people in business consider it a destination. Now, you might feel that's a bit harsh, but I have been helping companies drive change. So what I do within Order Partners is help companies implement breakthrough improvements with certainty that are underpinned by widespread and profound behavior change. So it's about changing the way people work, to be able to grasp that technology, to be able to run with it, take those insights and really make a difference in their organization. And I've been doing this for 40 years. And I see people who get into, when I'm talking about comfortable, I'm not talking about being lazy. I'm talking about people get in a rut. Because when you come into work, I know my day, what it's going to look like, and it becomes a routine. And I have expectations, and I know I can perform relatively well within that routine, and that routine eventually becomes a rut. And so I become a little bit comfortable. We have to shake that status quo whenever we want to do a major systems implementation or an organizational change. As I said, 40 years in hundreds of organizations on 3 continents. And what I've observed is when complexity and human endeavor come together, the same patterns of human behavior manifest themselves. And so it's great being a consultant because whatever company you go in, it's always the same things. And the clients say, how did you know? How did you know that? So I'm going to talk about some of those behavioral manifestations and how they can become challenging in helping implement new things, and how you can overcome those barriers and reignite the passion and soul in the organization. People put up some facts earlier. One of the studies that I found most profound is a study that Gallup does every year on employee engagement. Has anybody ever seen that study? Okay, they break down, they interview hundreds of organizations, thousands of people, and they put people into one of 3 categories. They're either actively engaged in the business, they are kind of indifferent, and then you've got people who are actively disengaged. So the active people are all about, we know where you want to go as a business. Then there's a bunch of people who, we come to work, we do what we're supposed to do, and it's kind of okay. And then you've got people in the organization who go, geez, new technology. I'm the only person who knows how to do this job. And if they put that in a system, other people could do my job. I'm going to be dispensable. I'm fearful. So without knowing what the future looks like, some people will resist. They will actively resist. They're not saboteurs, but they find it difficult to go with you at the pace perhaps your company wants you to. So what do you think the breakdown is? What percentage do you think Gallup found that people on average were actively engaged? 10%? 10%? 30%. And we have a winner, 30%, about a third. And about a third are kind of on the fence, and a third are actively disengaged. So I hear a lot, particularly in the manufacturing sector, that we can't hire and retain great employees. The sad fact is, if you're average, and I know you're all above average, but this is a significant proportion of your organization that are not actively engaged. And you can get them to be actively engaged with the techniques that I'm going to be talking about. So I'm going to give you a little story to exemplify these behavioral patterns. So a few years ago, I was invited to go into this pharmaceutical plant, and it made this life-saving vaccine. And the problem was that they couldn't get the vaccine out of the plant because they were having several quality issues that came to the attention of the FDA, the Federal Drug Administration. And when you're a little bit out of compliance, the FDA sends you a warning letter saying, better buck your ideas up, otherwise we're coming in with the big guns. And of course, they weren't able to resolve these quality issues. So then you get what's called a consent decree, which is a mandate that you have to change your ways. And if anything leaves the plant and harms a member of the public, the CEO and all of the people, you're going to jail and fines, which rather focuses, we talked about how do you focus the attention of the executive? That's a great one. In fact, the CEO of this company would fly in every week on his helicopter and land at this site and have meetings saying, what are you buggers doing? Come on, get your ideas up. Come on, let's sort this out. Unlimited resources. Couldn't solve it. VP of manufacturing calls me. He said, Mick, I've got the FDA report in front of me, and they said that our issues are largely behavioral, not technical. You talk that behavior stuff. Can you come in and have a look? So I said, okay, I'll come in and have a look. And the first thing you do as a good consultant, you would know this, right, is you want to walk the process. So this is how it works. The raw vaccine comes into the plant. This is what is called a fill-finish facility. So the raw vaccine comes in, and they have all of these machines that are taking this vaccine and filling it into vials, and those vials are going into packages, and those packages are having labels put on them, and they're being put into boxes. That whole manufacturing process, the elapsed time, because we mapped it, was 5 days. So here we are, after 5 days, and each one of these batches is worth $5 million. So very, very carefully, this finished vaccine, fully labeled, is taken over to the finished goods area there. $50 days it sits there, 50. From the time it starts over here, 5 days to make it, 50 days to get it ready for release. Now, if you're in, this isn't technically true, but it's accurate enough for today. You would consider the elapsed time of 5 days to be value add, and the 50 days to be non-value add. Now, can anyone guess why that vaccine sits there for 50 days?
This part of the process is automated. That part of the process was manual and run by people.
Okay, say it again.
The first part of the process was automated. The second part of the process was manual and run by people.
That's a great answer, but it's not quite correct. It was pretty much the same across. Okay.
Waiting on a quality check. Waiting for quality to release it.
Waiting for quality.
Waiting for quality to release the batch.
Why would quality be holding on to it?
They got to confirm that it's not, there's no impurities in it, or that it's at the right concentration levels and ready to be shipped.
You've got 2 out of 2. Did somebody send in my talk before that? Yes. Very good, very good. So what's happening is when in the process, if something happens in the process, right, a temperature spike or something, they record what's called a manufacturing incident report. Okay, so they fill it out. Manufacturing incident report, here we go. And they check that. And then what happens is the vaccine's over here, and quality look at it and say, there's an MIR associated with this batch. We have to do an investigation. So the QC team go in and they try and sort out what's going on. But you know, it's a highly complex process, and they were mapping this process, they were doing the checks, but they still weren't getting anywhere. And as part of the consent decree, they mandate that 100 consultants come into this plant, 100 quality consultants that the company has to pay for. And they were there weeks. And what they do is they start creating checklists, checks. And so they go to the operator and say, did you check this box? Did you? And then to the supervisor, did you check that the operator checked the box? And the supervisor says, yes, well, you need to check the box because you checked the fact that you checked. Now I'm checking the checkers who are checking the checkers who check the checkers. And I've got more and more pieces of paper in investigations. And what's happening, after 55 days, those papers were stored in 12 different buildings. They had hand calculations on them. People couldn't understand the difference between a 7 and a 1 with a little, gash on it. And now they're trying to match all of these up so that they can release this batch. And if they can't find those 12 pieces of paper with the embedded calculations with all the checks and the checklists on it, what happens is $5 million down the toilet. And this was happening consistently. So, compliance to that checking process. Compliance can never take you where commitment can go. So, I'm there, I'm looking at this process saying, well, it's way too complicated. We've got to find out what's going on. And we do something called a DILO. This is a DILO study. It's called a day in the life of study. This is not this vaccine plant DILO. This happens to be a chemical plant. And these are 2 maintenance engineers. And red means non-value add. And green means they were actually on wrench time. Now, you might look at that and go, what a bunch of Charlies. But no, these are talented people that are, and so what we need to do is we need to find out what's going on. And I want to know what's happening to impact their day, because these are talented people, these are employees. So I end up doing a day in the life of study of the fill finish operator. So there I am, start the shift, 8 o'clock, start my DILO, 8:07. Temperature spike. I've lost my checklist. I've chopped my checklist. He's saying I've got to record the manufacturing variance, and records the variance, which it's going to drive an investigation, and it's going to drive lots of checks. I said to the operator, "Do you know why that happened?" He said, "Well, are you wearing a watch, Mick?" Am I wearing a watch? All consultants wear watches. We come in, unless we borrow yours and tell you the time. But now he's reversing it to me. He said, it's 8:07. I bet it's 8:07. I look at my watch, 8:07. Temperature always goes up at 8:07 because we've had shift change, and I changed the dials differently to the night shift. Oh, okay. All right. So when the quality team come in and do their checks, do they ask you why this happened? Mate, don't be stupid. They think I'm an idiot. Well, you don't sound like an idiot. How long have you been here? Well, I've been 10 years at this plant. And I've been 3 years in this position. Okay? So, because I've got 8 hours to spend with him, I'm just seeing how the day goes and getting. So, what kind of training do they give you for this role? Well, when I first started, they gave me a 2-week course on how to record manufacturing variances and how to fill in all the reports. Did you have any training on root cause analysis or problem solving? No. And so there you have it, is you've got a 10-year veteran with lots of manufacturing knowledge. He's been reduced to an automaton. And he's learned a behavior not to speak, not to ask questions, not to follow, because nobody's going to listen to me. You could try that, but I've been here a long time. And by the way, you too will pass. Your consulting gig will go the way all the other ones have gone. And this is it's a phenomenon I call the death of dreams, where people start their careers, they have big, big aspirations. They're going to change the world. They're going to be Elon Musk. They're going to fly to Mars. And then they're in this dead-end, job where nobody wants to talk to them. And they've got these ideas and thoughts, and they're slowly beaten out of them. Stop thinking. Oh, and by the way, the supervisors, because now they've been reduced to checkers, right? I don't want to stay here. All I'm doing is filling in boxes. I can see where, no, don't speak, check the box. We'll come back to you, never do. So they leave. It's a wonder why people leave. Why are we losing all our best people? Right, because it's boring and you're not engaging them. So what did we do? Well, who was I talking to about shop floor control? Shop floor systems, visual systems. Anyway, we put in simple shop floor controls, so we got a little bit of standard practice. So we got the operators together, we got the supervisors together to come up with some standard protocols, and then we managed those. So what happened, and then we got a meeting where we got quality and operations talking to each other, which ultimately reduced the number of manufacturing incidences, which reduced the number of investigations, which reduced the complexity and the paperwork, and 23 weeks later, $53 million of vaccine was released to the market, and many lives were saved. True story. Once again, you can make, compliance isn't going to take you to where commitment can go. If you can get people to be engaged and you get them involved in the why, I'm going to give you 3 techniques to get engagement. Number 1, ask questions. Every time I go into after 40 years, you've got to, I've got a process now. I've got 3 questions. Question number 1, Tom,
Yes.
Are you having a good day?
Wonderful.
See, that's an answer. Wonderful. Sometimes I get, Mick, I very rarely get out of here before 7. And sometimes Ryan would say, what would you say, Ryan, if a good day would be?
Like breaking 80 on the golf course.
See, I take that answer. Breaking 80 on the golf course. Or, 10,000 board feet today, and our production target was 9,980. Or I've got a target. So now I can articulate performance. If I don't have an understanding of performance, how do I know what's the difference between a good day and a bad day? Because if I know it's a good day, then I'm thinking, ooh, what happened? What could we do to have more days like that? Second question. Tom,
Yes, sir.
what are you going to do differently tomorrow to have a better day than you had today?
I'm going to fly home.
He's going to fly. He has a plan, all right? So I'm now probing for cause and effect understanding. So if I know what parameters are important and I know the factors that impact that, then I can plan differently and I can have a different outcome. Otherwise, I'm in Groundhog Day, aren't I? So if somebody says to me, well, Mick, I've been a couple of weeks, and every time I come, we can't start the shift because, we're missing parts and we can't start the line. But, what I've thought of is I'm going to put a kit together the night before. I get the night shift to put it together. So when I come in, we can start the line straight away. Brilliant, right? Cause and effect understanding. And then my third question would be, if you're the owner of the company or the CEO or even a senior manager, or if you're just a consultant going in, I've just promoted you to the CEO of the business. I did this a few weeks ago. We had an automotive company in Ohio, and it's a German company, and the executive CEO had flown in from Germany, never been to the plant before, and we're doing the plant tour, we're doing the walking tour, and there's a bunch of people sitting there, and I said to the lead supervisor, I said, okay, this is Jorg. He's the CEO. You're Jorg today. You're the CEO. What would you do differently if you were Jorg? And she came straight out with this great idea around engagement. It was beautiful. So you'll get great ideas. So ask questions. So tip number two. Oh, yes. People say we don't want to change. It's too hard. I can improve your business without changing a damn thing. So you know this. I've got a chart somewhere in there, but I'm not going to show it to you. It's a bell curve. You take your plant, right? Some days you're at one end of the bell curve, some days you're at a different end of the bell curve. So, and now you've got the factory eye information. Now I can see this top decile of performance, or even the top quartile of performance. We do it. We have the organizational behavior and capability to perform at that level. But a lot of the time we perform in the bottom quartile and we perform at the mean. So all I need to do is, when I go in, I go, what's working well? You know, most consultants come in and go, what's working badly? I want to know what's working well. Find out what's working well. What are the conditions that need to exist for that to happen more frequently? And just do that. I worked in this organization, you can apply it to anything. Sales. They had 20 salespeople in this commercial flooring company. And it takes 20 years for the top sales guy was selling 10 times more than anybody else. And he'd been there 20 years and they're going, ooh, we need more salespeople, but we can't take 20 years to train somebody like Ezra. We have some technology, and there's some technology called Building Connected, where all the general contractors will put their bids on this site, and you can bid. So it gives you leads, and it generates your productivity, tells you when you need to follow up, all those kinds of things. And so they put that in, and they got elevated performance. But I said, well, has anybody talked to Ezra and asked him how he does it? Oh, no. It's like magic. Nobody could do what he does. And he's just a person, and he did two things. That the other guys didn't do. So number one is he would, when the general contractor was trying to put a bid together, he would call them ahead of time, can I help you with your budget? Before it even hits the bid board. And he helps out a little bit. The other salespeople, that's a waste of time. We're going to wait for it to come on the bid board. Then we know it's real. So he's up here, right? Here's the relationship with the GC. He's working with the GC at the weekends. The GC guy's going, I've got all these trades, and oh, Ezra, you give me some numbers, that's fantastic. I'll throw it out onto the bid board, right? And the decision comes in some of these bids 9 months later. And everybody else is getting in here, throwing their numbers in, and all they're doing at the end is dropping their pants and going with the lowest price. Ezra up here, he's already formed a relationship of added value. He's in a different, and then the second thing that he did was whenever he put a bid in, he said, I've got this bid, Steve. I know you're the GC. I need to come and see you and take you through it. Well, I'm talking to 25 different companies, I don't have time. No, I really need to, because there are some issues and some risks that I've highlighted here that maybe other people have noticed, and I want to take you through it. Now I'm talking risk management. Now I'm talking business. Now I'm talking partnership. He did those two things. He won 90% of his bids, and the other guys are only winning 20% of the bids. Okay, so identify the winners in your organization, understand the conditions, and do more of that. And the last one, the behavior that it's startling is that you have talent in your organization and they're working on symptoms. They're not working on root causes. We heard about root causes earlier, right? So what do? So there's a fire over here in the that's why I need that. So there's a fire over here. So let's take it to a different part of the business. I can't go past there. Our cash flow is really poor this month. Our over 90-day receivables are a nightmare. Mike, in accounts, you need to get in control of these receivables. So you have a span of control this wide because you're in the receivables department, and like you're putting out all these fires and you're calling these people up. But where's the problem? The problem's not there. If you go back, Mike's in accounts receivable, right? And he knows the sales lady. It's Julie. She's a very exceptional sales lady, and so her sphere of influence is wider. So, hey Julie, can you call on your client right, and get them to pay us, you know. But, you know, where's the seed of the problem? The root cause is down here. Because, hold on, let's go back here. So Mike says, I've noticed it's a certain type of customer that don't pay us. So the leadership team decided we're going to go after a new market. We know we've been in the general market in healthcare. There's a lot of money in healthcare. We're going after healthcare. Healthcare's complicated. There's a lot more risks involved with it. By the way, these people don't pay very well. So they've set a strategy here. The causality is here, and the fire is over there. And people are always trying to put the fire out there when the problem's over here. And you know, then we have to put, if we're going to decide we're going to go for that market, right, what is the messaging that I want my salespeople to go and take to market? I want my business developers to take. I want, you know, we could probably get 25% of the fees up front. That will help with our cash flow, because we do want to be in healthcare, but we understand it's going to have this causality. But the decision is over there, and the fire is over there, and people are always attending to the fire. So, my last suggestion is when you can't solve the problem, it means the problem's too big. So you need to expand the problem. You know, who was saying earlier about it's very important to be clear about the problem that we're solving, was on the panel, right? Einstein said, if you gave me 30 days to solve a problem, I'd take the first 29 to define it and 1 day to solve it. That's the problem, that's the symptom. So, help everybody start to look for causality, a little bit of root cause analysis. So anyway, that's a little peering into organizations. Engagement. So people get into a rut. People operate in a certain fashion. Jack Welch said, when the rate of change on the outside is greater than the rate of change on the inside, the end is near. You don't get to determine what the rate is. The market gets to determine. So if you're not moving fast, your competitors are going to be. So you have to get, you know, greater pace in your organization. The key to getting greater pace in your organization, as well as having the right technology, making sensible investments, is you've got to get people engaged. You get people engaged by, when you go out tomorrow, I want you to rise up from your chair, your cubicle, or your sofa, and ask great questions. Listen. I heard this earlier. Think. I heard this too. Think big. And then act, so that people know that the information you're giving up is being acted upon, and they will walk across coals for you. All right, thank you. And you can connect with me on LinkedIn.